more than 160 different programs that could increase targeting to opportunity zones to grant preference points, loan qualifications, reduced fees, and modifications in eligibility criteria. Council is also developing a uniform opportunity zone training manual for all the federal agency field staff. And this manual will help create a national network of surrogates to train communities, entrepreneurs, and investors about opportunity zones. Council will further develop and publish practices almost in real time for each work stream at the state, local, and tribal levels, as well as a comprehensive list of all federal programs available to assist Opportunity Zone communities, entrepreneurs, and investors. And the Council is developing opportunityzones.gov. That's a website that will provide community leaders as well as entrepreneurs and investors with a common point of reference for all available Opportunity Zone information, the tools, practices, council actions, and resources. It's a bedrock of our founding beliefs and guiding ideals that America itself is an opportunity zone. We call this the land of opportunity. Even though some people like to badmouth our country, do you know of any other place where people are forming caravans trying to get in? Obviously, this is an opportunity zone. Every street, every city, every stretch along every road should indeed be a zone that opportunity calls home. So, thanks to the President's leadership, this Opportunity Zone program, the efforts of the Revitalization Council, we are working to make the bold goal of an ordinary, everyday reality shared by millions of American men and women who call this great country their home. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. It's terrific to be here with everybody. Glad to follow Secretary. And I'm here to, first I'm just going to talk a little bit briefly about the economy, and then I'm going to talk about regulations, which I think there's some interest in this room, so people know how we can actually start putting money to invest. So let me just comment briefly on the President's economic program, which we've talked about from the beginning: tax cuts, regulatory relief, and trade. And I'm pleased to report we are making progress on all three fronts, and we've really seen this in the economic performance. Last year we hit 3% economic growth. A lot of people said that could never be done in the US. We didn't accept that, and the President delivered on that. That means more jobs and more opportunities. We also had historic tax reform last year, hadn't been done in 30 years. And I'm excited to be here today to talk about one specific part of the tax reform, which was opportunity zones. I think this is really an extraordinary program to incentivize private capital into opportunity zones and redevelop communities. At the Treasury, we've been tasked with issuing guidelines to implement opportunity zones. We take this very seriously. We want to make sure there's the right guidance so that investors can start investing and communities can immediately get the benefit of this. Treasury and IRS working together have tried to create as much flexibility for communities and investors so that we are positioning this economic development incentive for success. And today I'm happy to report that we are proposing our second set of regulations. I'd like to walk through just some of these, and then I'm happy to take questions. And I'm going to give you some technical things. This may be a little bit too technical for the crowd, but people have been interested in this. So the first part is qualified opportunity funds have periodic test dates to ensure that most of their assets are invested in opportunity zones. And we've proposed to allow investors to exclude cash or cash equivalents from this calculation if received within 6 months of the testing date, while the fund decides how to invest the money to create flexibility. We provide clarity for investors on what counts as a qualified opportunity zone business property. I would note that land used in a trade or business can count as a, quote, good asset, and leased property can also count as a good asset in many circumstances. We offer simple valuation techniques for business property, including unadjusted cost basis for purchased property or the present value of lease payments for leased property. We provide additional clarity on certain items, including the requirement that substantially all property must be in the zone, as well as the meaning of the term original use of property. We address, which we've heard, concerns about the requirement that 50% of a business's gross income come from active conduct of a business in this zone. And for this requirement, we provide options for measuring this amount, including measuring the services performed by hours, or by the amount paid for services, or by considering a broader set of facts and circumstances. And this is very important because I think a lot of people look at the real estate opportunity, but what we're very excited is about the opportunity to create new businesses or expand existing businesses in opportunity zones. We've heard your request for flexibility regarding working capital, and we are proposing that working capital can be used for the development of a trade or business, not only for tangible property. We're also providing for multiple overlapping working capital deployments, so long as each one has a written plan and realistic schedule. In other words, if you have capital that's been committed but not yet deployed, we've provided certainty how that can be used as working capital. Finally, we are permitting an extension of time to use working capital if there's an interruption in a project caused by a lack of government action, such as delayed permits. I'm sure that's something that people in this room have a little bit of experience on. And if there's regulatory delay, we don't want to penalize investors on technical issues. We've also provided that qualified opportunity fund interests passed down through inheritance retain their original tax benefits, effectively eliminating any death tax that might otherwise be due. If somebody unfortunately dies along the way, we don't want to penalize them in this process. These are just some of the issues we've addressed. We're hopeful that we've provided enough guidance that investors and communities can begin to deploy capital in opportunity zones. I would encourage you to continue providing comments through this comment period because this really does help us. And yes, we really do read them all. I may not personally, but we do, and they get summarized for me. And I've been intimately involved in each one of these regulations to make sure that they are as friendly to the community and the investors as possible. I want to close by reiterating that the economy is much stronger today than it was before President Trump took office. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being invested in our economy. Hardworking Americans have more career opportunities and higher wages than ever before. And now is the time to make sure that prosperity reaches as many communities as possible. Opportunity zones will play a key role in making sure that this occurs. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to take a few questions.
Mr. Secretary, I'm KV Kumar from the National Indian American Chamber of Commerce. Today, I'm also representing the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce at the President's request.
Terrific. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks to President Trump and you for making this economy a wonderful economy. And the question is...
I'll clap to that.
Mr. Secretary, I have a small question. There are, you mentioned, touched briefly on that one. There are many issues that you can cope up with. Sometimes, delays occur. But what about the unforeseen extreme situations when it happens? The investors can come back to you or to you, whoever it is, and request for an extension?
Well, I want to be careful in pre-committing depending upon what those unforeseen issues are. But I would say, again, as much flexibility as we have in the context of the law, we will do if there are unforeseen circumstances.
Good morning, Secretary Kanal Merchant from Cal OZ in California. We are Kanal Merchant from Cal OZ in California. We're one of the 9 states that is yet to do tax conformance, and we're in the process of getting through that right now. And I think part of what will move the needle for folks in California who are still wrapping their head around this program is the whole metrics and reporting piece. Can you provide some visibility into, is that included in the second regs? Is it a subsequent tranche? And then what should states be doing around that issue to make sure that in a year's time we're still aligned with the federal government?
Sure. Well, I still spend a lot of time in California, so I look forward to this being a great success in California. We are going to come out with reporting requirements. We felt that just in terms of prioritizing things, we wanted to get out the issues that affect investment right away. We've taken a bunch of comments. If you have ideas on reporting, I think we want to get the right balance between not creating something that's too bureaucratic. We don't want this to be big government with oodles of reporting. We do want to have proper reporting so that we can monitor the success of the programs in the community. I think that's something that's important that we're able to report back to Congress on. In the back.
Success.
Expect more salutes in the sky this Memorial Day. The Georgia National Guard doing a flyover in 2 parts of the state. The one over Metro Atlanta happened earlier today. 4 UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters fly above hospitals and landmarks that honor military service. Memorial Day looks different this year as we remember the men and women who died to protect and serve our country right in the middle of a pandemic. People gathered for a wreath-laying ceremony in Loganville. Several wore masks and they were encouraged to sit 6 feet apart. Normally on this day, we would see motorcyclists ride from Loganville to Madison, but because of COVID-19, the annual Ride for America event was canceled. But still, the community found a small way to celebrate this important holiday. Now let's get to the latest on the coronavirus here in our state. According to the State Department of Public Health, there are now more than 43,000 confirmed cases and more than 1,800 deaths. Among them, a 17-year-old boy from Fulton County. The DPH website shows he's the youngest known coronavirus patient who has died in the state so far. We're told he did have a chronic illness. At least 9 other people under the age of 30 have also died from the virus here in Georgia. We know at least 3 had other health issues. The Leavitt School says some of its graduates have come down with COVID-19 after an undisclosed incident. A spokesperson for the private school in Northwest Atlanta confirmed several families have notified them that their graduates have tested positive for COVID-19. Administrators say the school switched to virtual learning back on March 15th, and there has been limited access to the campus since then. They did not explain how the students got the virus. Now, cameras may soon begin to roll on TV shows and films here in Georgia. Francesca Amicker taking a look at the new rules that could have us hearing action again soon.
Yeah, this is big news for our $9.5 billion entertainment industry right here in Georgia. Georgia becoming the first state to roll out these safety guidelines so that our crews can get back to work, thanks to Governor Brian Kemp. This was rolled out on Friday. Now, the governor calls it the best practices guide for Georgia. The recommendations require maintaining social distancing, temperature checks, and testing, limiting the number of people in each area to essential personnel only, and having a staff member on hand to make sure safety protocols are followed. Now, the recommendations also include talent wearing masks except when on camera, using a clear barrier between actors while establishing marks and positions, employing camera trickery to make actors appear closer together than they actually are, reducing the number of background performers when possible. And honestly, guys, the list goes on, and you can see that full list on 11alive.com/theacene.
All right, Francesca, thank you. Lifetime Gyms reopened this morning, welcoming gym goers starting at 5 a.m. There are new safety precautions in place, including social distancing measures and, of course, heightened cleaning protocols, too. The kids area is open, but you will need to make a reservation. Gwinnett County Police are searching for the person who shot and killed an elderly man last night. It happened on Brittany Way near Phil Necro Parkway in Norcross. Police say 70-year-old Richard St. John died at the hospital. Anyone with information is urged to call police. Another man in critical condition today after an officer-involved shooting over the weekend in DeKalb County. The GBI says an officer shot this man after he pulled out a knife and charged toward the officer at the Quick Trip gas station on North Decatur Road. This happened early Sunday morning. Authorities say an employee told the man to leave because his pants were down. Now, new video at noon of an apartment complex that caught fire Sunday morning. This is the Sierra Village Apartments on Oak Shadow Lane Northeast. The Red Cross now helping 41 people who were forced out of their homes. One person suffered minor burns and 2 firefighters were treated at Grady Hospital for heat exhaustion. And the cause of this fire is still under investigation. Rumors are circulating online that the new EIP debit card sent to nearly 4 million Americans will allow the federal government to track transactions. But is this really true? Our Verify team is looking into it.
The Verify team is here to break down rumors spreading online, and there's been no shortage of misinformation about those stimulus checks which were sent to millions of Americans. Maybe you saw news stories about the latest development. The Treasury is sending debit cards to millions of Americans instead of paper checks. That prompted posts like this, people claiming that this will allow the government to track how you spend the money. So let's verify. Can the government track your transactions if you use these debit cards? First, let's get some background. In a recent press release, the Treasury announced that they were sending out nearly 4 million of these debit cards. It's for Americans who qualify for the payments but do not have their bank info on file with the IRS. And once you receive one of these cards, you could basically do whatever you want with them. Use the card at a store, transfer funds to a personal account, even cash out at an ATM. But let's get to the big question here. Can the feds actually track your purchases? Well, first off, we should point out that the Treasury Department isn't actually managing the cards. That's done by MetaBank, a private company that acts as the financial agent for the Treasury. And that's when we need to talk about the Right to Financial Privacy Act. On the MetaBank website, they say this law prohibits them from giving your info to the feds without written permission, except under very limited circumstances. So we can verify. No, the Treasury is unable to track your purchases if you use these debit cards, because that would break the law. With your Verify, this is Evan Kozloff.
Do you have something you want us to verify? Go ahead and send us an email at verify@11alive.com. In April, Georgia recorded a record high number of unemployment claims. With that comes a lot of questions about unemployment benefits, health care, and student loans. So coming up, 11Alive financial expert Andrew Poulos joins us to answer some of your questions. Let us know if you have a question by texting us at 404-885-7600. And remember, text this number, don't call. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Christy, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, doing well.
Do you get at least a little bit of rest today on this holiday?
It's a full day at the office, so yeah, it'll be a quiet day. That's a good thing. But we've got work to do.
I hear ya. We're in the same boat then, huh?
Yes, we are.
All right, I'll catch up with you soon.
All righty.
There's a lot of financial uncertainty right now, and we know you have many questions about your unemployment benefits, your stimulus checks, and much more during this time. So financial expert Andrew Poulos is here to fill us in. Let us know if you have a question by texting us at 404-885-7600. Now let's welcome Andrew. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Christy, good to see you.
Okay, let's dive right into these questions. We're going to start with Todd. He says, I don't have to pay interest on my student loan right now. Would it be smarter for me to try and pay off as much as I can right now on that, or use that money to invest in the stock market or somewhere else?
Great question. Well, two things. First, I obviously like to advocate for living debt-free, so to all people. And investing the money in the market right now, there's always going to be a risk, particularly now where we don't know if the market has any upside or downside at this point with what's going on. If money isn't an issue for Todd, I would say that the best thing to look at is to start paying down those student loans. The interest, he doesn't have to pay interest, but of course the lender is adding interest onto the loan. It's always best just to be able to live a debt-free life, at least debt-free of student loans, if you can start paying those down.
Now, Beth is in a tough situation like a lot of Americans right now. She texted, I've been laid off from my job for a few weeks now, so I no longer have health insurance through them, and I haven't had time to get an individual policy either. If I were to come down with coronavirus, would I be liable for all of the health costs?
Yeah, there's a provision in the CARES Act that the president signed where it allows hospitals to bill for coronavirus health care of individuals who are uninsured to the government. So on a good day, she would not be billed or incur costs there. Of course, it's always good to see if she can get a health insurance policy because you can get sick from other things aside from coronavirus, which the government would not pick up the tab for.
Very good to know. Okay, so this next question comes from David. He's asking what a lot of people want to know. Will there be a second round of stimulus checks coming out?
That is the million-dollar question right now, Christy, isn't it? Right now, no. What we're waiting for is to see if we can get bipartisan support between the House and the Senate to where they can work between Democrats and Republicans. They can work into a second legislation. The president seems to be in favor of providing some more stimulus to individuals. But again, at the moment, the bill, the HEROES Act, which passed through the House, I believe, the week before last, is not going to make it in its current form through the Senate. So until they come up with something that has bipartisan support, we won't have a second round of stimulus just yet. Probably maybe in the next, I'd say 6-8 weeks if all goes well.
Yeah, you can be sure if there's an announcement, you will hear it here on 11Alive. This next question, another viewer asking, we're looking to buy a house soon. Would it be smart to withdraw from my 401k right now to pay for part of a down payment?
Interesting question. So a couple of pieces here to this question. First, you never really want to withdraw from your 401k unless you really don't have another option. So if they're definitely, if the goal is definitely to buy a house this year and they don't have enough saved up outside of the 401k for a down payment, then they could look at the 401k. If they're a first-time home buyer, meaning based on tax law, if they have not owned a home in the previous 2 years, each individual can withdraw up to $10,000 from their 401k penalty-free. So the 10% early withdrawal penalty would not apply. They would still have income taxes to pay on that withdrawal of the $10,000 apiece, but it could help offset whatever the shortfall is for down payment. So it may be a good situation. It just really depends on a lot of other factors for this viewer and whether they truly have other money to use or they need to tap into the 401k account.
Okay, this next question also about the housing market. Keith wants to know, is now a good time to refinance my mortgage?
Another great question. It's all based on facts and circumstances. Are interest rates historically low? Absolutely. We've seen mortgage rates trending down in the mid to high 2s, low 3s recently, depending if you're looking at a 15-year or a 30-year. I would say to Keith that first look at how much of an interest rate reduction you can get. What is your current interest rate, and can you drop at least 1%, 1% interest rate lower? And then are you at a 30-year, and are you going into another 30-year, or are you at a 30-year trying to do a 15-year, which would cut off 15 years off the life of the loan, and does that make better sense for you if you're comfortable and can afford the mortgage payment? But overall, with interest rates low right now, certainly now is the time to be looking at refinancing if it makes financial sense.
Okay, good advice. Last question, Andrew. This viewer texted us and said, I've heard banks could possibly fail because of everything going on. Should I be taking at least some of my money out to hold on to some cash right now?
Listen, when this whole COVID crisis began, people were scared that banks would fail, similar to what we almost had in 2009. I don't see that happening right now, particularly because the Fed has infused trillions of dollars into the market and banks to keep them liquid. So I have not seen or heard anything that would concern me as far as having a run on banks. It may never hurt to have a little bit of cash at home as an emergency savings, but as far as going to withdraw your money at the bank, I don't see a reason for that at the moment.
Yeah, there are a lot of rumors circulating online right now, so it's good to have you here to help us verify and answer these questions. Thanks so much for being with us, Andrew. Don't go away. We'll come back to you right after this. All right. You are probably washing your hands more than ever, and while it's helping prevent the spread of the coronavirus, it could also lead to problems. Our Y Guy explains why skin moisturizer is important.
It is one of the strange twists that come with these strange times. Wet hands can lead to dry hands. It's true, and it's a potential side effect of our efforts to combat the coronavirus. No one is suggesting you cut back on thorough hand washing. That remains a vital weapon against the spread of any virus. So we'll explain why a skin moisturizer may be an important element of our new normal. The coronavirus has changed habits all over the world.
People are washing their hands more than usual. Water would seem to be moisturizing, right? But it really isn't.
Soap and water can strip away your skin's natural oils. Your body will replace it. But frequent hand washing can lead to skin so dry it can flake and even crack.
It can be a place where germs can get into your skin. Bacteria like staph that can get into their skin.
So dermatologists like Dr. Carrie Kovarik say frequent hand washing should be coupled with a skin moisturizer.
It would be good to do it a couple times a day. You see your hands getting dry and ashy.
Dr. Kovarik recommends ointments and creams that are free from fragrances and dyes. By the way, because it has alcohol as an ingredient, hand sanitizers will dry your hands faster than soap and water.
If you have a question for Jerry Carnes, our Y Guy, send it to us on Facebook, Twitter, or email. And stay with us. 11Alive financial expert Andrew Poulos is ready to answer many more of your financial questions. If you have one, text it to us at 404-885-7600. We are back now with our financial expert, Andrew Poulos, who is here to answer all of your financial coronavirus questions, and we know there are a lot of them. So let's go straight into this one. A viewer texted us and asked, when will the new funding be made available to small businesses?
Right, so I'm not sure what new funding the viewer is referring to. I suspect, being that they're asking about small businesses, we're discussing here the Paycheck Protection Program loan, the PPP loans, which have obviously been on the front of headlines and we've had some issues with. If that is what we are looking at, those loans are being funded as banks get applications and process them. Since round two, about 2.5 weeks ago, we certainly have seen many more small businesses get funded than we did in round one, which is a good sign. So money's still out there. Last I heard, Christy, we have probably about $100 billion left out there to give to small and minority-owned businesses.
Yeah, I might need a few more details on that question, but good answer. Thanks, Andrew. So Sarah says this. She says, my employer filed my unemployment claim in early April. My claim is pending a determination, and I can't get an answer from anyone as to why. I have not received one unemployment payment as of yet.
Well, yeah, that's a tough situation. So we're still hearing of people having some issues, not as many as we did, obviously, 8 and 10 weeks ago. I would encourage the viewer to try to reach out to the Department of Labor very early. I think their phone lines open up at 8 a.m. each day. Today, of course, they're closed with a federal holiday. You can also try to email customer.service@gdol.ga.gov. It's one of the emails. And of course, if you want to take an unconventional method and probably might have some pretty good success, if you're on Twitter, reach out, send a private direct message to Commissioner Butler. It's Butler 4GA. He's real good about trying to help folks as he gets messages from them. So try some unconventional methods and you might have some success.
Okay. Patricia asked this question. She said, my grandson receives Social Security. He's under 17. Will he receive a stimulus check?
Not necessarily. Just because he receives Social Security disability doesn't mean he's going to get a stimulus check. Most likely, the grandson is being claimed as a dependent on someone's return since he's under 17. And if that's the case, then he won't qualify for his own stimulus check.
Okay. Marcus has this question. Is now the time to convert a traditional IRA to a Roth?
Great question by Marcus. Now may be the time. And the reason is a couple of reasons. One, we have historically low tax rates. So when you convert a traditional to a Roth, you're going to take the tax hit up front in exchange for not having the money taxed later when you hit retirement. So with historically low tax rates and with the year being the coronavirus where a lot of folks are going to have much lower income than before, it might put you in a lower tax bracket. So between the various components of what's going on economically, now may be the time if you can afford to absorb the tax hit right now.
Okay, good to know. Now, another viewer says, do I have to return to work if I'm receiving more in unemployment benefits than I would be receiving in wages?
This is another $1 million question that we've seen a lot out there, folks asking, do they have to go back to work? Look, if your employer calls you back to work and you don't go back to work, you might not have a job when you want to go back, right? So unless you have some medical conditions, you have children, young children that you don't have somewhere to leave, such as a daycare to take your children to, then you may need to go back to work. If you don't go back to work, what are you going to do if you don't have a job later? As far as continuing on unemployment, once your employer calls you back to work, they legally have to stop filing weekly unemployment on your behalf. And at that point, you can file on your own, but it's on a case-by-case basis. The Department of Labor will review to see if there's circumstances that allow you to stay on unemployment, or else unemployment might just terminate.
Okay, good information. That's all the time we have for today. But Andrew, thank you so much for answering all of our viewers' financial questions. It is 12:24 right now. Up next, the Titan Games is returning for season 2. We got a look at what to expect from none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Baseball, basketball, and hockey remain sidelined because of the coronavirus, but athletic competition is back on NBC tonight with the return of the Titan Games, which managed to wrap up its season before the pandemic. Mark Barger visited the man behind the show right here in Atlanta, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, to talk about Season 2.
Season 1 of Dwayne Johnson's Titan Games put everyday athletes through the ringer.
I get great joy in seeing our athletes crush these competitions, and also, evilly enough, I get great joy in seeing them get crushed as well.
The season ultimately saw one man and one woman overcome their opponents and Mount Olympus to win $100,000.
I'm sure you want to raise the bar, though. How do you do that for Season 2?
Well, we created Celebrity Titans. So we have some of the best athletes in the world coming on to compete against our other competitors.
The show taped before the pandemic, with athletes from everyday walks of life squaring off in challenges.
Oh, that ball hit Bartley like a freight train.
Winners earning the chance to go up against pro athletes, including former NFL star Victor Cruz.
Ooh, yeah, dig it.
And two-time Olympic boxing champ Clarissa Shields.
She hasn't lost anything since she was 17. So when she comes on the show, I mean, she has told me emphatically, like, I'm not coming on to lose. I don't lose anything.
Shields and the other pros have the chance to win money for charity. If a contestant comes out on top, they get the money.
We got ourselves a neck-and-neck race here, folks.
Do you have to resist the temptation to take on some of those tasks and obstacles yourself?
I've gone through every single one, and I've tested them physically. I've tested them out. Not against anyone, because I still have to keep my ego in a good place. This stuff is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's hard. I don't know how I would do against somebody. Well, maybe Kevin Hart. I might whip him.
Until then,
Coach Blake's got that power.
the Titans will take center stage.
The season premiere of the Titan Games is tonight at 8 p.m. right here on 11Alive, followed by Songland at 10, featuring Boys to Men. Thanks so much for watching us. I am Christy Diaz. Stay safe.